What is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here. Right now, it's the start of 90 minutes nonstop NBA DFS conversation, taking y'all straight up the lock. You got myself, former $1 million winner Bobby Gomes. Later on, you get a $1 million winner, at least one-time $1 million winner, SquirrelPatrol. Will is jumping on, as well as Kevin Roth. Kevin Roth coming in for crunch time around 6:55, 7 o'clock, taking you all the way up the lock. 7:30 on the East Coast. We should have plenty of time to knock this one out here, Bobby. 5-gamer, 5-game slate, 2 games at 7:30, 7:30 tip, obviously. Then we got an hour and a half to chill, tilt our games at 7:30. 9 o'clock, we got the Thunder and the Jazz. And then we have a couple more late games, a dual-pronged hammer. Memphis, Minnesota. Minnesota, pretty big favorite here versus Memphis. The more popular game amongst those last 2 games would be Indiana and the Kings. Unfortunately, we are not going to get a revenge game for Halliburton. Halliburton was questionable. He's not coming back tonight, but you do have a Domantas Sabonis revenge game. Some of the players that partook in that trade a couple days ago, Bruce Brown appears to be available to play tonight for Toronto, as well as Jordan Nwora. Not sure if he will. Kira Lewis, also they got from New Orleans. Yeah, man, it's kind of tricky because some of the stuff up in the air is still Indiana stuff, Bobby. That's Mathurin, who's questionable, Obi Toppin, who's questionable, Nembhard, who's questionable. Pascal Siakam doesn't appear like he's going to be available. I don't know if this stuff can change as we, lead up into that game. We're still at 4 hours away, but last I've seen is that Pascal is not going to make his debut tonight for Indiana. Again, no Halliburton as well. But Indiana has 4 players that are questionable: Naismith, Mathurin, Obi Toppin, Nembhard. And it's 10 o'clock. So, yay. That's always fun. What's up, Bobby? Well, welcome to the show. Ready to talk some hoops?
Yeah, definitely. Always fun. 10 o'clock news on a Thursday with 2 kids. It's fantastic. I, for the first time, hit up my rep and said, I need it to do away with late swap. We need to do away with late swap. First time ever that I even thought of complaining about it. But, yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. We're going to continue to have late swap despite my appeals. But, yeah, 10 o'clock, Indy news. TJ McConnell, I think, would be interesting. Miles Turner, Jalen Smith, these guys all look good. If Mathurin, Neesmith, Halliburton's out, as we already know. So I think that's good. That's late news we kind of have to keep our eyes on. Nembhard got the midday downgrade, correct, Dean? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the midday downgrade.
I'm not sure when that dropped. I'm not sure. I just know collectively all those guys are questionable. Toppin seems less likely to play amongst all these guys, just from the coach speak stuff. He didn't seem, I can't remember the exact phrasing, something to the effect of like he wasn't able to move or he was limited in practice. So, and who knows? We'll see. And the tricky part again is when are we going to find this stuff out and how far into the slate will we find it out? You will have another game to work with too. And Indiana, as is, just kind of a frustrating team to figure out their rotations because they're willing to go deep if they need to. Most guys don't play more than 28, 29 minutes. They have other dudes, like there's other people around, but it could get really thin really fast. So like all 4 are out. I wouldn't anticipate that. I think McConnell's probably the most interesting piece. They hesitate to start him, but he still can, get it done in like 25 minutes or so in a matchup against Sacramento. And also he's a guy that will mop up too if things get ugly. We've seen that as well. Doesn't DK know who you are, Bobby? You didn't say like hey, I'm Bobby Gomes. I won $1 million. Do you not know who I am? You didn't pull that card because maybe they would consider all of a sudden, you know what? Bobby says, Bobby says we should get rid of late swap. Maybe we'll consider it now. They'll go back to the table on it.
I don't know. Definitely wouldn't do that. But my rep knows, I don't know, my history with the site and stuff. So yeah, he's very helpful. I never asked for anything. I never complained about anything. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know why I did it out of the blue. I was just, I don't know, sick of grinding the late swaps, 10 o'clock. I like that they did cut back some of these slates though.
Are you an Onyx guy? Are you in the Onyx tier right now? You're lurking. Are you upset with what they're offering these days? Apparently, a lot of the stuff people are upset with. The perks, I guess, if you will, is the way to phrase it. The treasure chest is no longer a thing on Wednesdays. Kirkwood won that every single week. He broke DraftKings. Now you got to tell them this is the day I'm going to spend the most money, and this is the day I want my boost when it comes to crowns. But has it been a noticeable downgrade? I'm not living that Onyx life. I got to be honest. I'm below that. But as far as your perks, is that that's something people talk about on Twitter as well? It's just not very appealing.
Yeah, I don't think it's like crazy appealing. But what are you going to do? Everyone's cutting back. It feels like,
you're going to play anyway.
It's not as good as last year for sure. I got the golf clubs last year. I don't know how my Onyx wasn't a little bit higher. I thought I would have made 3, but I was 2, but whatever. I'm not going to argue about it. Is what it is. Seen other people higher that I figure I might have been higher than. I don't know.
Do want to say what's up to those hanging out in the chats. I see TJ hanging out. Tasteful Tides Tim is hanging out. Steven, Mr. Richard, Derek, Michael. Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Do all those things that help us keep the lights on. We do appreciate all that. You're powering through there as far as your connection seems a little bit up and down. I'm not sure if producer Steve can hear it or if you can hear it or not, but hopefully, I know you told us earlier in the day that I guess throughout the entire day, Xfinity was doing some work around your building. So hopefully it will be a non-issue, but you're kind of fighting through. I don't know can you hear it or not? Is that something you're hearing, Bobby? Or you're kind of lagging back and forth?
I'm feeling the lag. Yeah. I like I said, I think they've been fixing it since last week. So I don't know. Not fixing it I had the issue last week. So I guess they just came this week to kind of get it fixed for the building.
Let's do a screenshot here. Hopefully it will be a non-issue. There's Kyle. A lot of the RG guys hanging out in chat. Kyle Murray also hanging out. I think he's on projections tonight. The projection's kind of tricky with some of especially Indiana. Well, I guess we'll figure that out in the night. Hopefully we get news in that early, or maybe not, and maybe you can take advantage of it late. Sacramento, perfectly clean, no issues there, but Indiana could be a bit of a mess, and it's the late night hammer. Minnesota is clean in the back-to-back. As far as teams playing in the back-to-back, we got New York, the Raptors, and the Wolves. The Raptors absolutely waxed my Miami Heat last night, just throttled them. I thought I was being sharp betting Miami when I saw that trade go down. And again, my face, we lost American dollars betting the Heat. Indiana also on the front end of a back-to-back. So maybe, who knows? We'll see. Maybe they'll keep a player or two out as a precautionary thing with them playing tomorrow night with all their questionable players. We did get a midday downgrade for Luol Deng for OKC. He had the fish, so he's questionable. He's got an illness. Not a huge deal.
Luol Deng or Lou Dort?
Oh yeah. Luol Deng is.
You threw me for a Luol Deng, sure.
Luol Deng, he's been out of the league for years, right? Yeah. Where's Luol Deng? He had a good run, didn't he? Yeah. Deng is officially out, just for the record. If Luol Deng probably not in the player pool. I would not play him. Super contrarian, but probably not available as well. And right before we went on air, Josh Hart was rolled out for New York, and I think that's going to open up as a super cheapie Quentin Grimy. I think he's going to start hitting some stuff. This is a weird slate, right? Where there's obviously some great spectacular plays here. Brunson and Randall both look awesome versus Washington. Sabonis and Fox both look awesome against Indiana. I'm trying to figure out the exact box of those, like which is the pairings you want, what combination. Maybe you want just to double down and get 2 on one side, and hopefully it's like a real game and they both get full minutes. And then SGA is always good. He's always spectacular. Eye on game for him versus the Jazz. I'm running some new stuff. And also, how do you feel about the Bagley chalk? Bagley's going to be crazy popular with his debut tonight for Washington. Gafford, of course, being out. He's basically the only true center for Washington right now because they got rid of Muscala. Looking down there, Anthony Gill, I guess, is a center. I'm not really sure how much minutes they'll get, if any. But, Marvin Bagley chalk, and I think we're going to have Quentin Grimes chalk. Gotta love it, right? This is NBA DFS. This is how it goes down. Screenshots as far as the slate, your big picture. What are you looking at? What are you seeing? And if you have any sort of plan for the 10 o'clock stuff, do share it with us.
Yeah, SGA is my guys. Jazz are number one in pace. Really good spot for SGA. Like him a ton. With Podol out, I feel like a lot of these Raptors are going to start hitting, and Siakam for that matter, no longer on the team. So RJ Barrett quickly, Gary Trent chalk, Marvin Bagley chalk with Gary Trent chalk. Like, this is going to be a night to forget very soon if you're playing both those guys together, I would imagine. But yeah, and then Indiana. I like trying to wait on this Indiana news. I think the center position is really strong on the slate, so maybe I'd be more interested in getting away from Bagley than getting away from Trent. I will say Jalen Smith, guys like Miles Turner, Rudy Gobert, they're centers that kind of pique my interest. Markkanen, does Markkanen have center eligibility? Pretty sure.
I don't think so. I think he's a power forward.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts. Like waiting on Indiana, seeing if McConnell starts. I think McConnell's a super strong play. Like Fox, Sabonis, Keegan Murray on the other side. So I will be backloading a bit for that news. And that's pretty much, it's a 5-gamer, so pretty short slate outside of waiting for the games.
We have an if Toppin and Mathurin are out, and I think there's a decent chance Toppin's out. I don't know about Mathurin. He probably plays, but I don't know. But like McConnell will look really, really good if both those guys are out. More so Mathurin. He's more so tied to Mathurin. But yeah, McConnell's my favorite, just sort of plug him in late and hope. I don't know how much I need it. Like right now, I think he projects like not great, obviously, but he's not terrible. And then he still has pass either way. I see TJ in chat. TJ is saying he's going to roster TJ McConnell 100%. And I'm assuming he's also probably setting himself up for some swaps if worst case scenario and that kind of thing. And he'll figure it out if he needs to, if everything goes wrong. But yeah, just sort of backloading and then adjust. I just ran the DK optimals, right, Bobby? And this is just wild because the 3 most popular plays, well, let's see, I should say the 2 most popular plays. Marvin Bagley is hitting my threshold at 70%. Gregory GG Jackson is hitting it at 68%, who I just became aware of this dude a couple days ago, not too long ago. 2nd-round pick for Memphis. They are super thin. He's looked good so far. He's really young, 19. He looks like he can score. He looks like he can block. He looks like he can hit some threes. The usage has been pretty good, over a fantasy point per minute. I don't know how fragile he is right now, but I think at least he's going to get a game or 2. Why not? Let's see what he can do. I wanted to see if a player for New York, if Grimes is hitting some stuff. I guess, what is Grimes' projection? 3.8K on DK, and he's got a 22-point projection. I would imagine he's hitting some things. Why do I not see him if I'm scrolling down? That seems like a pretty good point per dollar play. Anyways, I don't know why. Oh, let me type his name in. How about that? That should work. Anyways, we'll discuss that as we kind of move forward. Shall we talk about anything else as far as the slate, or just do the old game-by-game deal and everything else will come up organically?
Yeah, we can do the old game-by-game deal. I do think Quentin Grimes would immediately become a very strong play at 3.8. I'm with you in that. Wonder why he isn't showing in projections.
The chat's giving me a hard time saying Deng is hitting some projections. So they have Usman Deng, and maybe that's where my brain went. I'm not excusing myself for saying Luol Deng, but there is a Deng on the roster, but it's not Luol Deng. But anyways, and he's also injured. So that's obviously that's what happened there. My brain malfunctioned. Washington, New York, 234.5 is the total. New York is a 12-point favorite here. The Wizards confirmed terrible. Take it on New York. You know where the usage is coming in as far as New York. The absence of Josh Hart should really even like Brunson looks great. Randall looks great. Hartenstein looks awesome. We know how Washington historically is one of the worst rebounding teams we've seen. I was looking at Hartenstein like rebounding props, and it's like 12.5 or 13.5. Right, it's a monster number. FanDuel really boosted his price up. He's 6.7 on DK. Hartenstein, I think he's 7.7 on FanDuel, which I mean, he can get there, sure, but that's just, that seems like a lot. But I suppose that might suppress his ownership to some degree as well. But, we know the matchup against Washington is spectacular. How do you feel about New York? Do you have a preference, Brunson versus Randall? Me, it's kind of like lineup construction stuff, but I guess maybe I'll give a slight edge to Randall, but I'm not going to fight about it. It's 1 and 1A very, very clearly. DiVincenzo benefits a little bit with Hart being out. And again, Grimes. And I think Grimes is also a guy that New York doesn't pull their starters very quickly. Tibbs likes to sweep the leg. He does not show mercy. As long as possible, keep his starters out there until like the 3-minute mark sometimes. But I think Grimes is a guy that could potentially mop up if it's just super, super ugly. Yeah, talk to me about New York. I feel like we have to have some players from New York today.
Yeah, I think we have Grimes seeing like a 12% usage increase currently with quickly Hart, Mitchell Robinson, and Barrett off the floor. So, yeah, I like Grimes a good bit at 3.8, shooting guard, small forward eligible. I would currently prefer Julius Randle to Brunson. I don't know if you're different on that end, but for me, it's just more of a actually, no, they're playing Washington, so I guess it's more where you want to go in terms of like your lineup construction. I might prefer Brunson. I think they're very close. Yeah, I think I'd rather go Brunson at the guard position, spend up to be contrarian, but I think they're both very strong plays on the slate. Also like Hartenstein. Hartenstein 6.7 price tag for Hartenstein. You said his props. It's heavy on the over, I would imagine. Very good prop. So, yeah, I like Hartenstein. DiVincenzo is the one that I think it kind of gets lost in translation. He's like 600 less than Barrett. Barrett's going to be pretty chalky, I would imagine, the slate. So I like DiVincenzo a good bit. Shooting guard, small forward. As kind of like a play that's going to get lost in the shuffle on the slate.
So Hartenstein, his projection right now is over 15 rebounds, according to RG projections, 15.28 to be precise. If you're looking at if you have the scores and odd stuff, or even if you have a RG premium, you go pull up the page that basically shows every individual stats projection, median projection. The number is 13.5. 13.5 minus 110 at DK, minus 105 at FanDuel. It's just a monster number. It's just a little bit too high for me to bet, but if you're going to force me to bet, I would definitely take the over before I take the under on that. Just Washington, again, terrible at rebounding, and they lost Gafford too. They lost a lot of their height, but Muscala's gone. Gallinari, who was playing some center, which is kind of hilarious, he's gone as well. I'm pulling up their rebounding percentage, Bobby. This is just the wildest thing as far as how bad they are at rebounding. On the season, like the second worst rebounding team in basketball, the Dallas Mavericks. They rebound the ball 47.4% of the time. The third worst rebounding team, OKC, 47.5% of the time. The worst rebounding team, the Wizards, they rebound the ball 44.4% of the time. They are 3 percentage points worse than the second worst team. It's so bad. And also, there's a lot of shots that are missed too with the Wizards. It just feels like there's a lot of rebounds to be had here. I couldn't take advantage of that number because it was just a little bit too high. But you got to feel pretty good about Randall getting a double-double as well, or at least got a decent chance. What's Randall's projection for rebounds? It's got to be close to 10, right? Let's see. I didn't look into that one. Right at 10. They're right at 10. You don't need the double-double. Certainly you'll take it. He can also put like 37 points and 9 boards, and you'll be like okay with that as well. We should talk about, we kind of mentioned Grimes. Grimes is projected to play 24 minutes, 22 DK points. He's 3'8". He's shooting guard / small forward eligible. He's got some versatility all over the board. He's 3'9" on FanDuel. He's really going to be played hard on FanDuel. Because FanDuel just feels a little bit tighter if you're just kind of messing around with stuff. He's going to be really popular over there. I think we're seeing 40% ownership on FanDuel for Grimes. In or out at those ownership numbers. Are we in or out? I think you said you like him, but are we going to be over the field on him?
I'm going to be significantly over the field on him. I think that we're going to see around the industry that this is going to move, and Grimes is going to start hitting everyone's projections. So we already have him in currently. So he's coming out as a strong play for us. So yeah, I like Grimes a good bit.
Yeah, I got to run my stuff again and see how many lineups he's popping in for me, but I'm sure it's a fair bit. I see Flying Armbar in chat says, has Bagley chalk ever worked out? We'll talk about that in a second. It's a weird one, right? Because it's a bad matchup. Bagley's not very good, but he's a pretty good stack compiler. They did trade for him. I don't know if they traded for him because they like him, but I'm not really sure why they traded for him. I feel like it was other reasons because, Washington and Detroit just moving nonsense around. It might have been money related or picks related. I think that's what the whole point of it was. Bagley's been passed around several times. Of course, once upon a time, he was a lottery pick, top 5, top 6? I think, was he picked ahead of Luka? Am I making that up? He might have been. Does that sound correct? He might have been.
He could have been. Yeah. He seems
I think he was in. Yeah, Michael's telling us in chat, Bagley was the number 2 pick. I think he was picked right in front of Luka, which is yeah.
You lose your job for a pick like that, in my opinion.
Bagley was picked before Luka. TJ's telling us. Yeah, several people are telling us that in chat, and obviously, 2020, looking back on it, but there was once some promise here, and he's pretty good at fantasy. He's not a good defender. What is Washington going to do with him? I guess he's going to start. I guess he's going to play. Well, what are we projecting him for? 27 minutes? I think there's a chance he plays 32, 33. There's probably a chance he plays 22, 23. But look at this rotation. Look at what they have. And I guess they could play Kuzma at the 5. I guess they could play Koulibaly at the 5. Small ball stuff, but it's hard to play small ball stuff against New York, especially when Hartenstein's out there. I think I'm playing Marvin Bagley is what I'm getting at. I don't love it, but it just feels like he's going to be in the court for at least 25 minutes and possibly more. Yeah. What's your read as far as Bagley? It's not an endorsement. It's just he's a pretty good fantasy player, and he's probably going to be out there. The matchup does stink. Fantasy point per minute on the season. Jason's telling us no chalk Thursdays. He's going to be really popular. Yeah. Bobby, I need you have more of the tournament brain than I do. What are we doing with this?
I just think there's so many plays in that range to be Marvin Bagley. If he's up to 60, 70% and higher stake stuff, I'd be completely getting away from it. I think Thad Young at 4,100's in play with Podol out. They're running a bunch of different centers there, so it's kind of a tough rotation. But I think Thad's the guy that I would go with. Isaiah Jackson for Indiana. He's at 4.2. He's right in that Bagley range. We already know Halliburton's out. We get any of these.
He's relying on Turner. Turner's the guy that blocks him mostly, but yeah.
Those wings, though, in general. I just think there's plays you can kind of get away from Bagley. Maybe Walker Kessler 4.5, I think, would be an interesting pivot.
Wait, Walker Kessler's 4.5 now? Did I miss that? He's down to 4.5? Yeah. Utah, I don't know why they've kind of made him regress this season. It is strange.
I think they're planning on trading Olynyk. From what I have a buddy who's friends with Olynyk, and he's they think he's getting dealt at the deadline.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, there's no reason for them to keep Kelly O. But Collins blocks Kessler as well. Yeah, Utah, man.
I understand why you'd have to showcase Olynyk, though.
People know what Kelly O is at this point. Yeah. By the way, I did rerun some stuff, and here's the most popular plays hitting my lineups. DK, Marvin Bagley, 69%. GG Jackson, 60%. Quentin Grimes, 42%. Gary Trent, 42%. We'll talk about him. And then the three more guys for New York. Brunson, 41. Hartenstein, 33. Randall, 32. Yeah, man. But it's just so funny. Bagley, GG Jackson, who nobody knew this guy was 2 weeks ago, and Quentin Grimes. Those are the 3 most popular plays. It's a 5-game slate, but this is just what we're dealing with today. But there's theoretical value here. The Bagley projection is really good, right? 27 DK points for 4K. I think on FanDuel as far as Bagley. Yeah, 5K. Even 5K, he's going to hit some stuff. But and he's also got versatility, power forward / center. Yeah. I don't know what to do with it, but tell me the path of him not playing 25 plus minutes, basically, is sort of what I'm trying to figure out. Now, there might be 25 empty minutes.
He could get into foul trouble with Hartenstein or Randall, pretty early. So Hartenstein would I think would be an issue for him. If he gets too early, then I could see myself. I don't know. I feel like that would be he's also Marvin Bagley. Like, he's not the greatest play.
Flying Armbar says Hartenstein played 40 minutes the other night. Somewhat makes me want to fade him. No. Coach Tibbs, don't fade him on that. Like, if Tibbs can play him 40 minutes, needs to play 40. He'll play him 40. He'll play him 40 minutes if he needs it. Tibbs does not care, man. He will run his players into the ground. You know who you can ask? Luol Deng. Luol Deng will confirm that. He'll, amongst other players, but Luol Deng is one of them. You know, Squirrel. I read Squirrel's article earlier today, and he's going to be on the show in about a half hour or so, and he was talking about, and this is his team. Really, really interesting pivot, and I'm sure I'll talk about it later on. Patrick Baldwin is a guy that possibly can get some run. 3.3K as a potential 5, as a potential big. We're only projecting him for 6 minutes, so understand it is super, super fragile. I would almost definitely not play those two together, Bagley and Baldwin. If you're betting on Baldwin to come up, you're probably betting on Bagley to come down. But I this is probably more for like and Squirrel will speak on it later, but this is probably more for a large field. We're being ambitious. We're telling a story. But Patrick Baldwin seems like a guy, because there's just not a lot of height on this team. We're giving 3 minutes to Anthony Gill, he's got a lot of height, not a lot of skill. Hey, there you go. TJ chiming in chat. He says he's got 59% Bagley, 41% Baldwin. Yeah, you play one up. You lock it at 1. Look at that. Me and TJ are in. Well, we both probably, I don't want to say stole it from Squirrel, but Squirrel certainly put that suggestion in my head, because I was trying to figure out, like, what is the path for Bagley not getting there, for not being good. All right. Other stuff on Washington, besides Bagley, nobody's popular. Like Tyus Jones, not really. I think he's got a better price on FanDuel. He's 6.5 on DK. 6.7 on FanDuel, a little bit better if you sort of just compare how salaries work. Avdia, he's sort of fine. Kuzma, theoretically, this game is close. He's one of the guys that's helping you get there. There's a chance if Kuzma's like playing great, maybe he is the 5. It's hard to be the 5 here against Hartenstein, but if you're Kuzma, but maybe that's the path. But outside of Bagley, there's not a lot to really get behind. I know it's a 5-gamer, but do you like Wizards? Anybody want to endorse outside of, and you didn't really endorse Bagley, obviously.
No Wizards for me outside of Bagley. I think I'll be under the field.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the other 7:30 game at Chicago. It's the Bulls at the Raptors. Bruce Brown apparently is available to play. Nwora is available to play. Kira Lewis available to play. We know Pirtle's not playing. That doesn't mean that those guys will play for sure. I'm guessing we'll get some word from the beats. I want to see what we're doing projection-wise. I'm going to do a refresh because that news did come relatively early, or basically we jumped on the air. Okay, let's see. Are we projecting Bruce Brown for minutes? We are. We're giving him 20 minutes. So that's interesting because that's not like full, but we're giving him 20. They're giving Nwora 4. Dick gets 2. All right. I think we're projecting Trent to start once again. That was spectacular last time against Miami. They buried a bunch of threes versus Miami. And we know the matchup versus the Bulls it's the perfect 3-point matchup. No team in basketball gives up more made 3-pointers per game than the Chicago Bulls. So, that's how you get there with Trent. Trent's still pretty cheap. I would say there's some fragility to this Toronto rotation. It's hard to say what they're going to do with Bruce Brown. I would imagine, like, once he's settled in, he plays more than 20 minutes a night, right? So we're giving him 20 minutes. Maybe that's part of like kind of a hedge. I'm not really sure. You have a thought on that, a take on that? And again, Nwora getting 4, he might play 0. Like, Nwora is not really, he's a fringe rotation guy at best. Yeah. What's your read here as far as the Trent thing and as far as Bruce Brown, 20 minutes? It's just a tough number to put up to project, I think.
Yeah, for me, it's more with the centers. Like I said, I like Thad Young, but then there's Chris Boucher and Jonte Porter, and trying to figure out that rotation, I feel like, is more important. Bruce Brown, like, what's Bruce Brown's usage rate? We went over this the last time. I think it's not fantastic, so he's not someone like I'm totally worried about. Should I have more interest in a 5-4 Bruce Brown at 0% ownership? Like, there's no real reason to figure that out.
I don't know. I just think the range of outcomes. I think there's probably a path where he plays 0 minutes, and like sometimes guys get cleared and they're still just like they don't play him for whatever reason. Just kind of like get acclimated to the system, yada yada. But I think there's a chance he plays 30 minutes. There's a chance he plays 28. Again, this is just a tough. The projection team's got to put a number on it. I don't think they would let him play like 10 minutes or 15. And Brown's like a legit rotation player. He's versatile. He can play 1 through 4, right? He's a good defender. I don't know. It's just basically the answer. I'm curious what sort of conversation they had. And 20 might be right, but he could play 26. I wouldn't be surprised. I guess I'd be surprised if he was at 15. Like if you're going to play him 15, then what's the point of even playing him? But who knows? TJ's also saying even if he plays 30, he might not matter. I'm just sort of thinking of like he would probably take away minutes from Trent a little bit. So like
I guess you
it's
could
not
poke
so much.
Trent. Yeah, you poke holes in
It's
Trent
not so much.
Yeah,
I don't think I want to play Brown because he could play 28 minutes and while he's a good defender and he helps the team win, he's not the greatest DFS player. Obviously, your traditional basically 3 and D. But we have a 29 minute projection on Trent, which is a little bit, again, that one could be 30, 31, 32. Worked out spectacular yesterday with the new rotation. We saw Schroeder coming off the bench and Schroeder getting 28. And now Toronto just has like more pieces to work with. And it's just curious to see how it all settles. Quickly, I think, is, super solid. 32 minutes for Quickly. I like Quickly a good bit. Probably my favorite play on the Toronto side, but you consider salaries and everything. I'm fine with Barrett. Scotty Barnes, I probably don't have the money for it, but I'm not going to besmirch. Your power rankings when it comes to Raptors.
Yeah, be Quickly, Barrett, Trent, Thad Young. If I had to rank them, I should start off like Scotty Barnes at the top. Forget that. Scotty Barnes, Quickly, Barrett, Trent, Thad Young. But I think I should probably mix in Thad Young a little bit more because I like him not more than Bagley, but I would like to have more Thad Young than Bagley for what it's worth. So I don't know where I would rank him with. Like, I don't love Thad Young, but I think he's an interesting pivot off of Bagley for $100 less.
You're also kind of banking on Jonte Porter getting foul trouble again a little bit for Thad, right? We're not projecting him to start. We got Quickly, Trent, Barrett, Barnes, Porter. Porter keeps fouling. It's just what he's doing. He's been starting and fouling, and I don't think he's been closing. Thad center and center only. We're not giving him a plethora of minutes, but enough, right? 23, he's close to a fantasy point per minute. 3.9. It is a pivot away from Bagley. If he just straight up beats Bagley, that's good. Like if he puts up like 20 points and Bagley puts up like 15 somehow, like the 20 is good, I think, right? That's just because so many people are just making that 1v1 decision and saying, well, yeah, clearly it's Bagley. The projections are telling me he's like a 6-7 point, he's got an edge over here on Young. So it's not even that Young has to smash. It's just that he has to beat Bagley, who's going to be probably 50% plus. And like you said, in like higher field, smaller, higher dollar, smaller field stuff, he's going to be crazy owned. We know how the chalk tends to rise in those kind of contests. Give me your thoughts as far as the Bulls. We do have Patrick Williams officially questionable right now. He's got an ankle. The minutes are really elevated for White and DeRozan, revenge game, Levine, Vooch, all of them playing at least expected to play 35 minutes or more as far as a projection. And then just Caruso and Williams. Otherwise, not much else going on. Dosunmu and Drummond, getting some run, but hard to get. Drummond, he still has not come down from his 8-9K stuff. He's down to 5-1. We did see him play a little bit extra last game. Was it last game? I believe it was last game where he had some run alongside Vooch. He played 22 minutes. Don't see that very often. But that was also against Cleveland. Cleveland's a pretty big team. Okay, thoughts on the Bulls?
Yeah, so the best value is Patrick Williams, but Patrick Williams really is just a value play. I would not play him in tournaments, has zero ceiling. Vucevic is the price tag that I really like. He's at 7.5. He'd probably be my favorite center strong on the slate. Still like Vooch a good bit. Never played DeRozan. I'm team never played DeRozan. I do not do it. I won't play him. I refuse. So no DeRozan for me. Levine, I would probably prefer to Kobe White, I would say, if you're talking the two guards. Just Levine has somewhat of upside. I do worry about like guys like Bruce Brown. This team, not defensively, like I think Levine will be fine, but I just think that Toronto's not like the greatest up and down like matchup for guards, or hasn't been in the past. Well, that was more with OG in, I would imagine. So I don't know if you want to take a shot on Levine, fine, but it's Vucevic for me. That's my favorite play from the Bulls.
Yeah, there's trade rumors out there. I see TJ talking about Grimes, Fournier, and a pick for Brown. Trade rumor. Is that Bruce Brown going to? Is that what we're talking about? Bruce Brown going to New York and Grimes and Fournier going to Indiana. Fournier still has that terrible contract. They've dusted him off a couple times this year, and maybe they dust him off versus Washington. I've not seen that rumor, but okay. Speaking of showcasing players, maybe you need to showcase like Fournier, just like show people he's still Toronto. Yes, Toronto. Thank you, TJ. Yeah, I forgot that Brown now was on Toronto temporarily. But maybe you have to show people that Evan Fournier is still alive before they trade for him. But I assume that's just like a money thing, I'm guessing. Because does anybody think Evan Fournier can play like real rotation minutes now at this point? I wouldn't think so. Yeah, it's a salary thing. Okay, thank you, TJ. Okay, anything else we should say as far as Chicago, Toronto, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
Derek says don't need to showcase Fournier, just need to Google him. There you go. You ever Google Fournier before, Bobby?
I have not. Should I? Is it going to be something interesting?
Well, I would just say this. Before you Google Fournier, his nickname is, this is not a Chop nickname or a Kirkwood nickname. His nickname is Never Google, just to be clear. But if you're feeling ambitious, we're going to get a fun reaction if you Google Fournier. Just type in Fournier and hit the
is that Game Green? What is that?
I don't know. It's not Blitz. It's whatever. I don't know. It's something you don't want. I'm not sure, but I Googled it once. And
whatever that is, you don't want it.
It reminded me when I watched The Ring for the first time. It's definitely not recommended for the people out there. Do not Google. It's in the name. Never Google Evan Fournier. Okay, we have 3 games left. Those are the 7:30 games. We got a game at 9 o'clock. OKC, the Thunder. They take on the Jazz. 244 is the total. OKC is a 3-point favorite. So it's high and it's tight, right? We like that. We just hate the way Utah runs their rotations, especially when they're fully healthy. And tonight they're fully healthy. We know that Lou Dort is questionable with an illness. We know that Luol Deng is not going to play for OKC. No Luol Deng, which, by the way, must be confusing for anybody that may have just tuned in like in the last 2 minutes. That's a callback for the people that have stuck around from the beginning. Yeah, SGA looks spectacular. And he's kind of I don't want to say a pivot away from, but the conversation sort of is Brunson, Fox, SGA when it comes to elite guards on this slate. Where would you have him? Where would you prioritize him amongst the elites? Or you don't want to say guards, just elite plays on the slate.
I think SGA is the best play on the slate. Jazz are the most pace-up team in the NBA. So, yeah, I feel like getting to SGA a lot makes a ton of sense. Jalen Williams at 7'2", small forward, power forward eligibility. Find him interesting as well. 33 minutes he's been playing. He's like really up and coming. Don't mind him shooting a ton. Been very efficient shooting, but at that price tag, like 7'2", and it's a 5-game slate. I don't mind getting to Jalen Williams, and then Chet Holmgren at 7'8". I think it's a good spot for him for rebounding, for pretty much everything that he would fall behind SGA for me, though. as their two main guys. Obviously, SGA is 3K more than Chet, but Chet's a stud in his own right, just not reflective in pricing yet. I think Markkanen on the Jazz side is a good play at 8-3. Yeah, Chris Dunn was popping his value. Like you get up to Keontae George at 4.8. I think that's an interesting pivot from a GBP perspective.
Yeah, it's just, trying to figure out the minutes there for Utah, trying to figure out who's going to close. Markkanen's going to play his minutes. Clarkson's basically going to play his minutes, but otherwise it's a little kind of sketchy. Everybody can kind of lose 5 or gain 5, depending on. You mentioned, Holmgren. It's an awesome steals and blocks matchup here for Utah. Utah is the second most block team in the league, and they yield a bunch of steals as well. They give up the third most steals, so it's an awesome stocks matchup. So, on FanDuel, where you get more for stocks, you get 3 points. I would bump up those OKC guys just a tick. I know it's in the projections anyway, but just you get those outlier games. You can't really predict them, but I can see Holmgren putting up like 5 or 6 blocks tonight, and that could be something that could separate you from the field. We got Eric in the chat touting Chet first basket prop. I don't know how to do analysis on that first basket prop, but maybe he will score the first basket. I have no clue. I don't know how. Why would you say that? Like based on what? Why would you? Did you not? Have you ever bet first score, first basket?
I haven't. I used to bet first face-off. Jonathan Taves, I used to bet him every time. And then I come to find out from a buddy who played with him that he used to lose the first draw on purpose because it's just it's a neutral zone. They don't really care about it. So,
Interesting.
He was the best centerman in the NHL, and he just never won that face-off. But I was chasing it for like 2 weeks, and not the greatest of moves.
Did you ever watch the Adam Sandler movie Uncut Gems?
I have, yeah. Kirk's a big fan of the movie.
Good movie. Kirkwood said it was about his real life. Yeah. He thought it was like a biography of Kirkwood.
It was a simulation, yeah.
So producer Steve's way ahead of me. He's typing in chat. Like nobody, I don't know if you remember in the movie, like he would bet. He had like a parlay, and part of his parlay was betting who wins the opening tip. Like Kevin Garnett was involved, and like Kevin Garnett betting the opening.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anywhere, any sports book. I know he's doing it through a bookie, but he would do a parlay, and part of his parlay was who would win the opening tip. Nobody cares about the opening tip, and you get the ball in the second quarter anyway if you don't get it the first quarter, so it doesn't really matter. But again, I just thought that was a flawed part of that movie, just because that was so unnecessary to include it, and nobody offers that bet.
I don't even think you can get that on a street book. Like you'd be more likely to get that on like DraftKings or something like that.
I mean, good luck finding it. You think you can find that? I don't think you can find it.
No, I don't think you'd find it. Yeah.
You probably get some really good data on it. Like I'm sure there's some guys that like win it all the time and some guys that lose it all the time. But I just remember having a problem with that scene. Just that plot point. Like that just didn't make any. There's other things in that movie too. And geez, the directing. Oh, it makes you nervous. That's the whole point. It's really, really well done. Like it makes you uncomfortable the entire movie, just the way it is filmed. But anyways, just wanted to. That's what it kind of reminded me of, like the weird sort of off the board bets. What else do you want to stress as far as OKC and Utah? What else is worth pointing out? The people know SGA is awesome. Anything else we should point out before we move on and talk about the 10 o'clock games?
Yeah, SGA best play on the slate. Walker Kessler is 4.5. His prices come way, 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 way down.
He's been bad, though. They don't let him play.
He's been bad. They don't let him play. They don't give him minutes. But can he beat Marvin Bagley for giving him 3 less minutes? I don't know. I like Kessler a little bit.
He could. If that's the angle, if you're just looking for guys that beat Bagley, like it doesn't mean you can't play them both. Like it's possible they both get there, right? But yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I get so frustrated playing guys on Utah because you just never know how much they're going to play. Outside of Markkanen and Clarkson, it doesn't start, but he's going to finish and he's still going to play 30 minutes or so. According to Billy Britz in the chat, that prop bet is offered on BetMGM during the playoffs. Okay. I've never seen it before, but that's interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. So somebody's got to keep data on that, right? Just as far as who's winning opening tips. Anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about the dual-pronged hammer that is the Grizz and the Wolves and the Pacers and the Kings. We had crunch time coming in about 10 minutes or so. Kevin Roth as well as Will. You got the Chief and aforementioned SquirrelPatrol is coming in. 214 is the total for Memphis and Minnesota. Obviously not a very appealing number. Not just that, but Minnesota is expected to give them a shellacking. They're in the back half of a back-to-back. They are 13-point favorites, and they are fully healthy. Wouldn't shock me if somebody kind of rests out of nowhere for Minnesota, but I feel like we probably would know that, but you never know. It's the association. But, again, it is the back half of a back-to-back, and they are facing Memphis, so it seems like a good rest spot if they need it. Memphis without everyone, Bane, Larivia, Smart, Clark, Rose, Ja. We're expecting Luke Kennard to start, along with Vince Williams, Zaire Williams, Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., Xavier Tillman. We've already kind of touched on Gregory G.G. Jackson as being somebody coming off the bench and worth taking a peek at. Also, it looks like he has, if this game gets ugly, he would almost definitely mop up. Only I'm seeing 11 guys available for Memphis tonight, so seems very likely he would do some mop-up duty if necessary. Talk to me about Minnesota, Memphis. This game, Minnesota is well-positioned, but it's probably a blowout. No, I shouldn't say probably. Decent chance of a blowout. We thought that last night in that game against Detroit, and their Minnesota players did really well for a long time. They eventually pulled away, I believe. But, what are you seeing as far as Memphis and the Grizzlies?
Yeah, back-to-back for the Grizz. Like you said, scheduled blowout last night for Detroit didn't go as planned. I don't know what's going to go as planned tonight, but I do like Gregory Jackson for that reason. 4K, he is going to get blowout run. I think he's a very strong value play. He's not starting, coming off the bench. So what? I can play some Gregory Jackson. Xavier Tillman is someone I'd have interest in, 5'5" at the center position. Like I said, center is pretty loaded, but I'm just trying to find ways to get away from Marvin Bagley. So for 1,500 more off the 4K, I can play some Xavier. I could see this being a blowout for that reason. Like if I'm talking about Minnesota guys, I prefer the price on Gobert relative to the price on Cat, because it's for 1,000 less. Gobert might have a better shot at getting there. And Edwards is fine, but he's definitely falls behind Brunson, SGA, and those guys on the slate for me. Jaren Jackson, he's going to see a ton of usage. Where do we have his ownership currently for Jaren Jackson? Like 13%. Like I get up to.
So it depends where you're shopping. He's 6K on FanDuel, so it's a much harder to play on FanDuel. I think it's 6K. Let me double check. That's Jaren Jackson. Okay, I'm looking for GG Jackson. Yeah, 6'4". My bad, I misspoke. So FanDuel is really reactive to him having a good game. He's 6'4" over there. 4K on DK. 4K on DK. We're looking at 45% ownership. I think that's that's the most updated number. That's a lot. That's a lot on somebody that nobody really was aware of until just recently. But the path seems pretty clear. I'm only giving him 25 minutes, about a fantasy point per minute. And again, he's a guy that's willing to shoot a three. He's got a nice usage. I think it was like 25% usage. It's only 80 minutes or so as far as a sample. Obviously, the run has not been spectacular. But in that run, he's had some blocks. He's had some steals. He's shooting some threes. He's active. He's doing things. They're asking about who would be the point guard if this game blows out. Yeah, Kennard wouldn't mop up. There's a little bit of fragility to him. We're giving him 30 minutes. We're assuming he's going to start. Whatever his minutes limit was before, that's gone. But his concern is, like, if this game gets ugly. Same deal with Triple J. Like, I'm afraid of Triple J. He's projecting really well, Bobby, right? But it's what if he gets those 2 early fouls, he goes to the bench, and then it's the combination of early foul trouble, late game blowout, and he's squeezed on both ends, and the coach fouls him out, essentially, and the game's already over by the time he's willing to come back and say, okay, now he's not in foul trouble anymore. So, like, he's an interesting math play, Triple J. I just don't know because, obviously no Ja, no Bane. Like, he's their top player at this point.
Those are 2, like, very strong reasons why I'd be not interested in getting 2x the field as I was thinking I would be. So like you said, like 2 fouls and then blowout run, and you're lost completely. So.
And he plays 22 minutes, they lose by 25. And, like, again, that's just a story you're telling. If you want to tell a story that the game's going to be close, then, like, of course, a different path. The Tillman one's really interesting just because, the matchup against Minnesota is not good, but his minutes are really, I think, pretty rock solid because they need his size. They need his girth against, Cat and Gobert and Nas on the other side. So, like, we're giving him 30 minutes. And I think that 30 minutes is pretty, again, barring foul trouble, barring blowout, I think those 30 minutes are pretty secure. So if you want to make the argument that he's going to beat different price, but I definitely can see him beating Bagley if things kind of go his way. And he's going to be less than 5% owned. I think that's a really interesting tournament play, but you're also telling the story that this game is not going to be a shellacking. Anything else here as far as Memphis, Minnesota? We should definitely touch on Indiana and Sacramento. Obviously, whatever we don't get to, crunch time's going to clean up. They're coming in about 5 minutes or so. Indiana, Sacramento, a lot of stuff still up in the air. I should mention we did get clarity on the Bulls. Patrick Williams officially in. Anybody that was questionable, like Drummond's going to play. DeSumo, I don't think those guys are ever officially questionable, but they are in too. Chicago as healthy as to be expected. Pacers, Kings, revenge game for Sabonis. High, reasonably tight. Will be tighter if Halliburton's playing, but he's not playing. But at least good to see he's coming back soon, it appears, because he was at least questionable today. But Halliburton officially has been ruled out. Looks like Pascal's not going to be available. Naismith, Mathurin, Toppin, Nembhard, all questionable for Indiana. This is also the last game of the night, so that's always a lot of fun. And Sacramento is fully healthy. Sabonis and Fox both look awesome here. I think I prefer Sabonis over Fox, but it all comes down to build. Let's knock out the Kings first, as that's where we're first looking, right? Of course, salary is a thing, but Fox and Sabonis are the guys you want if salary wasn't a thing.
Yeah, Fox and Sabonis are the spends always with the Kings. I think Murray and Monk are probably the best mid-range plays. I think it's a good spot for Murray. Monk's hitting some optimals around the industry. I think I would prefer Murray. Kevin Huerter, he's someone who's in play as well. I don't tend to play Huerter, but on a 5-game slate, I think he's fine. That's really it for me on the King side. Do you have any interest on the King side outside of that?
You could take shots on Murray if you want to take a shot on Murray, but yeah, Harry Barnes has really fallen out of favor for me. It's basically Sabonis, Murray, Monk, Fox. Huerter's, he's really up and down, mostly down. He's not going to get played, but those minutes are fragile. I don't think I want to get there. Barnes is really tough. We're giving him 30 minutes. He just doesn't do anything. What is Barnes' usage on the season? 13.6%. That's just terrible. Can you play Murray and Sabonis together in a tournament? I think so, but probably want to run back somebody on the Pacers. Is that where you're at as well? If you play Murray and Sabonis, I think that's fine to play them both. It's a small enough slate.
Yeah, definitely want to run someone back. For me, on the Pacers side, TJ McConnell's the guy. I think he starts if we get the news that Nembhard, Mathurin, Obi, Toppin are out. We already know Halliburton's out. Nembhard was the midday downgrade. I'm pretty positive it was a midday downgrade.
I missed that. Take your word on it.
Let me see for sure. I just want to make sure. Yeah, Nembhard after 3:00, now listed as questionable Thursday. So it was after we got the 3:00 news.
Yeah, I think the biggest impact for McConnell would be if Mathurin doesn't play. Certainly he would get a bump if Nembhard doesn't play also. Just kind of going through, we have if-then set up for Mathurin. So if Mathurin is out, we would give a McConnell projection about 32 DK, 32 FanDuel points, 24 minutes. Even the minutes, again, not spectacular. You said start. Wouldn't guarantee that he starts, but I think he's still fine. I wouldn't panic if he's not starting. Certainly if you're playing him, you prefer he start, but he tends to not start. And we have that projection. If Toppin and Mathurin are both out, we would give a 35-point projection for TJ. And if I were to guess, I think Toppin's the one most likely to sit for Indiana. And I believe this is also, it's the front half of a back-to-back. So if they're sort of like teetering back and forth, should we play them? Should we not? Maybe they play a little caution and say, you know what? We don't even have Pascal just yet. Let's chill for one more day. We'll get everybody healthy for tomorrow. We'll unleash Pascal as well tomorrow, and we'll take an L tonight. So be it. But there's really not a lot to say. It's just, how are you leaving spots open? Are you putting McConnell in your lineup as like a holding pattern kind of thing? Worst case scenario, he's fine. He projects for 30 fantasy points and 23 minutes at 5.9K on DK, and that's with Mathurin, Nemhart, Naismith, and Toppin all in. And there's a path. We've seen him. Especially if this game gets ugly, that's good for him. He probably closes in an ugly game.
And Bruce Brown's in Toronto, so that I feel like that would have Bruce Brown was like their other ball handler outside of Nemhart and Halliburton. So I think you just lock in McConnell and kind of work your way down in terms of like what you want to do when we get Nemhart and Mathurin news. I think
it's interesting. He's not hitting stuff, right? Where is he at as far as, I don't think he's hitting many optimals, which I think it's a good idea just to throw him in there. I think he was around like 5 or 10% as far as the stuff that I was running. It's not a lot. It's not a lot. And certainly there are paths. Hoosier Sang Banners talk about, Isaiah Jackson, if this game gets ugly, certainly is another player that can get there. There's a fragility to try to figure out Indiana.
Jackson is 4-2 though, too. That's the other thing. Like he's right in the range of Marvin Bagley. Yeah. So I really like the Jackson call.
I think I'm just going to play Bagley. I don't feel great about it. I mean, I don't make a ton of lineups, obviously, and I'm not sure. Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe I'll make one or two. But if I don't play him, I'm really curious to hear Squirrel talk about Patrick Baldwin, which may be a really ambitious pivot, but there's maybe a path. There's a story you can tell, as far as the big, whoever would take those minutes away from Bagley if the game gets out of hand, which certainly it can against New York. CW asked if we think Dort will sit. Wouldn't shock me. I don't know how much. It's hard to say. He's sick. Who knows how sick he may be. Kason Wallace will be the guy that'll probably step in and get more run, but he's not somebody. He's like a 0.65 fantasy point rate player. He's not somebody you're excited about. He's a good defensive player, so I don't think I would roster him anyway. But he would project better, but still probably not project really, really well. That's the guy that most likely would step in for Dort. We should be getting, Crunch Time coming in just a second. Before they're coming in, I do want to ask Bobby, player that's going to break the slate. And it sounds like you're taking a stand with Bagley. Now, are you saying no Bagley or just like well less in the field as far as Bagley?
I'm probably well less in the field on Bagley.
Okay. Who are you going to be over the field on?
In terms of guys going to break the slate, I'm going to go Dante DiVincenzo.
I like that call. Yeah, he's one of the guys on New York that's sort of lost, but certainly he benefits a little bit with Hart being out. Where is he projection-wise as far as ownership? Because you can play there's 5 or 6 playable guys on New York, I think. McBride's hard to justify. Let's see. Pulling it up now. Let's see. Randall, Brunson, Hartenstein, OG. Yeah, DiVincenzo getting 17%. Yeah, and certainly the matchup here against Washington, 28 minutes as far as the projection. All that is good stuff. Okay, we have Crunch Time knocking on the door. Squirrel, you're going to have to talk to us about Baldwin in a second. I've hyped it up a couple times. You mentioned it in your article today. We have Will as well. And if you guys don't know, I assume you know, the guy in the middle, that's Kevin Roth. And who's Kevin Roth? Again, if you don't know who Kevin Roth is, he is a self-described sports meteorologist. What's up, Roth?
Yeah. I thought that was coming. Yeah, if you missed it, I got some love from ESPN in an article last week with everything going down. And instead of describing me as someone who's been in the industry for 15 years with a master's degree in meteorology, they just described me as self-described meteorologist Kevin Roth.
It feels like
check your credentials, Rob. Tell him I've got real credentials.
I've got a damn master's degree, and I get self-described meteorologist Kevin Roth. Thanks for that, ESPN.
Somebody interviewed though, right? You had a quote there. So was there a bad rapport? Was there or maybe it was through the DMs or whatever? Was there snark detected? Why would they not give you give your legit credentials?
I don't know. I thought it went really well. And then it turns out the story was barely about me. It was some like fledgling sports weather company I've never heard of. And they just made me sound like a damn loony. It was like doing it on the
This is
side.
why Mike Tomlin walks off of the podium when they
Yeah.
ask these dumb questions.
Right.
This is the reason right here.
I was so stoked to like brag about that article and show all my bosses, like, look how good I'm doing. And then it just made me sound like an idiot. And I was like,
By
I
the
don't feel
way,
excited anymore.
I just called myself a meteorologist. Didn't go to school for it. Just
Right.
pull up
Yeah.
weather.com, look at a few things.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about it. But anyway, it's still cool. Still cool.
Yeah, you could just call yourself that, and you would be described as somebody as a self-described sports meteorologist, just the same. Which is amazing. All right, myself and Bobby, we're going to see ourselves out. Let's go.
Hey, Bobby,
else with people?
before you,
Okay.
Bobby, did you lose a shitload of weight? You look skinny, or are you sick?
I
You
did.
look
I
like-
did. I've been dieting. It's been working out. So
Holy
Yeah.
shit! Yeah, I was like, this is skinny Bobby in the house, man.
Ricky
Yeah.
Bobby, to be exact.
Ricky
Good
Bobby.
job, unless you're also sick, and that's part of it. In which case, like, not.
I
good job,
am.
get better.
I am not feeling the greatest, but
Yeah, I could tell. All right. Anyways, you look great, but feel better.
If you're not first, you're last. It's Bobby Gomes. I was Dean. It's the FanDuel sponsor Crunch Time. You got Will, you got Squirrel, you got Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. As always, welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is my hair I look like Ace Ventura. I don't know what's happening here.
That's what
welcome
happens
to
when
it.
you're self-described.
That's self-described Ace Ventura meteorologist. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to it. This is Crunch Time. DFS Heartthrob. You're damn right. Maybe not today, but usually. Welcome to Crunch Time. This is the show. We're going to take you up to lock. We're going to take you through lock. We're going to give you some plays. We're going to give you some builds, some general theory, and we're going to take your questions as well. That is what we do on this fantastic show. And we're also joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got my guy Squirrel in the house. What up, Squirrel?
Yeah, not much. Wizards starting lineup, I think, just came out with Marvin Bagley in it, so that's relevant. And that knocks my Patrick Baldwin call down a little bit, although I still think he's like viable, especially on DraftKings.
Okay. And then we got the Chief repping the scores and odds cap. He's a beast on scores and odds, beasting with the props. What's up, Chief?
Another much, man. Another day, another dollar here. And probably, I say this openly, probably the greatest tournament player of our generation, SquirrelPatrol's in the house today. So it's a good day.
That is always a good thing to do. It does leave us in a bit of a quandary here because I have two fantastic tournament players. Who wants to be my cash guy? But Akim in chat says, I'm a self-described $100,000 winner tonight, which I absolutely love. Who's going to be my cash donkey, and who wants to give tournament takes today? Yeah, that's about what I thought. Yeah, I tell you what, Chief, I'm going to put you up to it, but you can give me all the tournament takes and thoughts that you want. Is that cool?
Yeah, no, it's perfectly fine.
Doesn't sound
the greatest
like
tournament player of our generation should be giving tournament takes.
That's why when you said that, I felt like,
sense.
yeah, you dug your own grave when you said that. Well, why don't you catch me up on this? Like, let's say that I've been dealing with kids making s'mores. I have not caught up on anything so far today. So why don't you catch me up, Chief, on what I need to know and what still might be dropping?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the main thing is we do know Marvin Bagley starting. I feel like the big news it's not that big because I don't feel like this guy is like anywhere near close to cash, but you know, they talked about Lou Dort. Lou Dort's hanging out there with a questionable tag. But outside of that, I don't think anything else is too egregious that's going to impact my play. So I'm full steam ahead at this point because Lou Dort's almost not in the equation for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I do know with Indiana, their lineup may get interesting because, you know, Siakam's not going to play tonight. We already know that oh man, why is his name leaving my mind right now? Tyrese Halliburton's not going to play, and so Bruce Brown is gone. So that might change a few things. Maybe the minutes swing a direction that we don't anticipate. But other than that, and well, I guess maybe the Gobert news. But other than that, I'm not I'm full steam ahead with what I plan to do to attack tonight. And then if anything weird happens, I'll just make some adjustments.
Okay. Well, Squirrel, is there anything you want to add here before we just dive on into some cash builds and then we'll get your tournament takes?
Yeah, no, let's we'll get to it.
Okay, very good. Lock is in 23 minutes, kind of an abridged show here because it's a shorter slate. So walk me through it. Chief, what are we doing here on FanDuel? And I said, give me the chalk, give me the cash, but also you are an excellent tournament player in your own right. And let me know how you're attacking this if you're trying to win a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, so on FanDuel, I mean, if you look at the core tags, our good friend Taylor Smith, he's got Sabonis here, he's got Bagley, and he's got Gary Trent, which I think all of these guys are viable. You can plug in Sabonis or Bagley at center or power forward or both, depending on how you want to approach the slate. Sabonis 10-3, Marvin Bagley at 5K, getting a buttload of ownership, and then you've got Gary Trent, who should be playing 30 minutes or more tonight. At 4,700, we know Siakam's gone. Hopefully that will open up a few more shots for him and a few more points for fantasy production. So those are the three that he has tagged. There is a guy that I like for tournaments tonight not tournaments, really cash games as a pivot. It might not feel as cashy as you think, but let's say you just need a little bit more salary relief than Domantas Sabonis. I do like Julius Randle tonight in cash games. He's 9K, and I mean, this is a guy that, since the trade and even before the trade, he's been going nuts. Gets a really nice matchup with Washington tonight. Should be an up-tempo game. And I think it's really, if you're just trying to balance out that lineup a little bit more at 9K, Julius Randle is someone that I like for cash games also. And what do you know? Squirrel has him tagged as an expert play here, and so does Kirk Dees. But I still, at 9K, I mean, it's a guy that can get it done. It's Washington.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen, as long as the game's close, Julius Randle should have a really, really, really good night, in my opinion. I know you guys kind of like to go position by position in this particular spot. So there's a point guard tonight that, could be sneaky. He's also tagged, that's tagged in the salary savers with Keith Eister, and that's Mike Conley at 5,600 if you need a little salary relief. I think he's a guy that you could plug in. Now, listen, you're not playing Conley for ceiling. This isn't a guy that's going to go out and get 40 fantasy points, but I think he could land somewhere between 30, 35 if everything broke his way in a spot against Memphis. So I do like him at point guard. At shooting guard, of course, we already talked about Gary Trent, another guy that should get an uptick here. We're going to see Luke Kennard playing big minutes. He's 4,800. And I'm not trying to just cram in value here, but I do think, if this game stays close, Luke Kennard is going to get, all the minutes he can handle with Memphis being limited. So at 4,800, he's a guy I think you can get in for cash as well. And then if you're going up on the top end at shooting guard, relative to, what the rest of the slate is, I do think a guy like Zach LaVine at 7,500 is close. I think he's close. The minutes are starting to come back up. They have a matchup with Toronto. This Toronto team is a little bit different now in terms of setup. So this is a guy that could get off tonight if things broke his way. Moving to small forward, do like RJ Barrett at 6,800. I think this is a guy that, since he's gone to Toronto, one of the things I've seen is his rebounding numbers have picked up pretty nicely. Mm-hmm. And so he's got a lot more outs to get fantasy points, to hit some version of a ceiling. And I guess one of the things I'll mention in cash games is you want a nice floor, but you do want some ceiling, right? Because everybody can't score 35 fantasy points. You need some guys getting you in the 40s, some guys getting you in the 50s. I do think RJ Barrett is a guy, if things break his way, he could get you in that 40 fantasy point range. And I think he could get there. Luke Kennard is also a small forward as well. And don't hate Dante DiVincenzo, which a lot of these guys do have tags on them today, which kind of tells you how the builds are breaking out. Moving to power forward, I've already talked about Randall. Obviously, we know you can get Domantas Sabonis there. You can get Marvin Bagley there. So I think those are two of the main pieces. We do have Jaren Jackson tagged an expert play, but I wouldn't play him in cash. This game could get out of hand. And at 8K, we do want to make sure we get the value there that we're looking for. If you're going to play both of those guys, being Bagley and Sabonis at power forward, I do think Xavier Tillman is close at 6,300. I think he's close, and that's really more of a minutes play. The projection isn't great, but I mean, if he sees 30 minutes, we've seen this guy be able to put up 30 plus fantasy points in the right situation. So if you happen to play both of those guys at power forward, I do think he's close.
Okay. Easy enough. Pivot it over here. You go through everything you need here. You got center.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I already went through it.
Excellent. Well, let's kick it to Squirrel now and discuss, maybe zoom out a little bit before you dive in and talk about what your strategy is as you look at the slate.
Sure. So yeah, just 5 games. 2 of them are rated 7:30. Then there's like a game in the middle at 9, and then 2 games at 10. We still have some injury questions for the 10 o'clock game. So I do think, like, overall, if you're trying to like think of like tiebreakers for players, like maybe go with the guy in the late game, because we could have like some shenanigans with like Indiana, with Minnesota. Minnesota's on a back-to-back, and they're playing at Memphis, like 12.5 point spread. So just keep that in mind. We've also like just recently had like some trades, some injuries. Like the trades in particular are kind of shaking things up. And so Washington just got rid of their backup, just trade away their second string and third string centers. That like same game, their starting center got hurt, got a concussion. And so they were like centerless, but they've got Marvin Bagley is one of the guys they traded for. So he's going to be really popular. I like had mentioned Patrick Baldwin in my article. I think he's the backup now. They really don't have a backup center. So it's probably Patrick Baldwin. It tells me 2 things. Like Baldwin's like pretty cheap on both FanDuel and DraftKings. Like he's small forward eligible on FanDuel, which is pretty nice. And he's really cheap on DraftKings, which is also nice. So he's like a kind of flyer, like maybe not a single entry guy, but like a big tournament flyer you can take a chance on.
Sure.
Also, it means I think Washington's going to get even more killed on the inside than they normally are. This is a team that's like historically bad at rebounding, and New York is like the best rebounding team in the league. And they have Julius Randle and Isaiah Hartenstein. Like they're just going to murder Washington on the inside.
Yeah.
So there's that to keep in mind. There's Toronto, has made some trades, got some injuries. So like they just trade away Pascal Siakam. Jakob Poeltl's injured, so they're like starting Jonte Porter. I think Thaddeus Young is maybe the better play, but like then RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly, like getting more usage. Gary Trent's been starting. I think he's starting again tonight. But if I'm going to go position by position, should I go position by position? Do we have time?
Yeah, why not? Might as well.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So yeah, point guard on FanDuel, like Jalen Brunson and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander are the best plays. I don't mind being over the field on Malik Monk. I think he's the same exact price as TJ McConnell, and they're in the late games, like they're in the same game. So if you get some injury news breaking your way, you can like make Malik Monk into TJ McConnell. Manuel quickly is more of a DraftKings play, but he's like in play for tournaments on FanDuel. And De'Aaron Fox is really well priced on FanDuel. Like he's one of the top spend ups on FanDuel. Shooting guard, getting a ton of like Dante DiVincenzo and Luke Kennard.
Can I cut you off on the Conley thing? Where do you stand? Like, what's your Conley ownership? Is that a guy you're under the field on?
Probably got about like 20 to 22%. So what is he projected at? I don't know. Yeah, I think he's about a 20% guy. I'm not like in love with playing him in single entry or like your like primary core teams. He doesn't go like berserk that often.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So I get sometimes he'll be like the highest scoring guy at his price and can like be on a tournament winning lineup in that case. But he's not somebody I aim to be over the field on kind of ever. He just projects well sometimes.
Okay, fair enough. Keep rolling.
Sure. So yeah, like shooting guard kind of monopolized on FanDuel by DiVincenzo and Luke Kennard. Then got some Gary Trent as well. Some Malik Monk, but again, I prefer using Monk at point guard and turning him potentially into TJ McConnell. Quentin Grimes should get a little more run. Then I'm building in some Andrew Nembhard and Benny Matherin. They might like not play, so then I'd have to turn them into somebody else. Small forward. I really like RJ Barrett. I think he's one of the top kind of in the middle plays tonight. I think Pascal Siakam not being there is going to be helpful for him. And he's just really well priced in the mid range for a small forward. I really like some Denny Avdia. I've always been like a Denny Avdia fan, and I am like probably pay more attention to the Wizards than most teams. But he's somebody they might play a little bit more of with Daniel Gaffer sitting. Like they don't go to Patrick Baldwin; they could go like kind of small with Denny Avdia. And then also like DiVincenzo Kennard, also small forward eligible. Power forward, Julius Randle, I think is my top spend up on the night. Like I think SGA is more likely to score more points, but he's also more expensive. Julius Randle, I think, could just like destroy this Washington team on the inside. And then Isaiah Hartenstein, some Thaddeus Young, and then Marvin Bagley. I'm probably going to end up under the field on FanDuel. Like he's 5K on FanDuel, 4K on DraftKings. So DraftKings, it's a little harder to get away from him. I just think there's a bunch of things can go wrong here. Really high ownership, especially on FanDuel where it's 5K. Like he could get into foul trouble. Like from the Knicks, I would try to get him into foul trouble, and I don't think he'll be able to avoid it. And then he's just kind of out of the game. Center, a lot of Marvin Bagley, Isaiah Hartenstein. I'm building him some Jalen Smith. He's the same price as Bagley. And projects probably about the same. I just think he's going to be like way less owned than Bagley, and I kind of like having this spot to play around with if things go a little bit awry in the injury reporting for the late games. And then Nikola Vucevic, he might like Toronto's down some big guys, so like it might be good for Vooch playing in that same game like as a true center. Like I don't think Jonte Porter and Thaddeus Young can really defend him that well, so he hasn't had a great year, but he's a guy that might have a good game tonight.
Got you. Okay, very good. We still have 10 minutes or so until lock. Of course, we should note this show is sponsored by FanDuel. Bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets for New Year's in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. If you are in Vermont, you now have access to the FanDuel Sportsbook as well. Special offer for you. Bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets on any market. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's kick it over to DK. And Chief, I just want your thoughts. They don't have to be cash. They don't have to be anything. I just want your thoughts on DK.
Yeah, so in DK, still going to play Sabonis, still going to play Randle. Actually, I Randle a little bit more on DK. He's a little bit cheaper there tonight. So I like him a ton. Still like Gary Trent, of course. In terms of the slate, the game that I'm probably attacking the most is Indiana Sacramento. Once again, that's the late game, but you can get Sabonis in. You can get in some of these cheaper, and I'm air quoting that, cheaper Pacers, whether it's Nembhard, Heel, Nesmith, Benedict Mathurin. Like all these guys are way cheaper on DK. And so I think on DK, this is where you get more of your Indiana exposure. Even a guy like Obi Toppin, who, might feel like he's at the bottom of the minutes totem pole. I don't know how they may handle it tonight. So for me, I'm always going to put a fair amount of these guys in a group and then say, hey, I want one or two, no more than two of these guys out of the five. And I'll get them on the other side of Sabonis, on the other side of Fox. Still like Mike Conley for cash. And then still like Luke Kennard. He's 4,800 here. Excuse me, he's 4,800 on FanDuel, but I still like him on DraftKings as well. Gigi Jackson, we got the tag on him in the corporate. He's 4K. Like that's a really nice price on him. Obviously, not just because he scored 21 points or whatever it was his last start. It's also because he should be getting minutes, and minutes are king in DFS. And so I really like him a great deal. Also at the point guard spot, I do like Emmanuel Quickly at 7K on DraftKings. That's a guy that I really like tonight for cash or tournaments. I think that's a guy I actually wrote up today. So if you want to get all of the details, Keith, and all the extra stuff, you just go read what I wrote instead of coming to a show where we've got 30 minutes to tell you what to do. In fact, if you want to, maybe you can come on and do the analysis the next time and show us how great you are. I'm kidding. Yeah. So at any rate, I do like Emmanuel Quickly, at 7K. I definitely think he's a guy that we can get in at shooting guard. I know I talked about RJ Barrett before, but RJ Barrett at 6,600 on DraftKings, really like him. I definitely think he's a guy that could get there as well. I like these Toronto, these two guards here from Toronto. I think they've got a lot of potential tonight. Also on DraftKings at the point guard spot, I do really like Jalen Brunson. A little bit more on DraftKings than FanDuel, 8,500. We've got a really nice projection on him tonight, so he's a guy that I really think could get there. Still like Bagley, of course. Bagley, I still think he's going to be fine. And then I'm borderline on Karl Anthony Towns here, 8K. And once again, that price, I think it's a little bit too cheap for what we could get in this spot against Memphis. So at 8K, he's a guy that I'm okay with. Also like Lauri Markkanen as well.
Okay. I did get a few questions, and Squirrel, I want to get your takes on what's different in your builds on DK. But let me knock out a few of these questions first. DK Cash Chief, are you playing both Brunson and Randall together, or would you prioritize one or the other? He feels Randall is the lean. Keep in mind, this is for cash.
Yeah. Randall is where I would go for cash for sure.
Yeah. But tournaments, you
like
Brunson.
I like Brunson in tournaments as well, but you got to. I would build out the rest of my lineup first and see where I land. I'm in on Randall in all formats.
Yep. Okay. A couple more questions, Squirrel. I'll come to you here. Is Bagley a lock on DK, or do you like the idea of playing like Vooch and Sabonis together?
I don't think he's a lock. Like, no big man is ever a lock, especially like guys that are non-superstars, because they can get into foul trouble so easily. Especially like really high-owned guys. So, like, if I'm running, I am running 150 lineups, I'm not going to have 100% Bagley. If I'm not playing Bagley, though, I probably want to be playing somebody that's like Patrick Baldwin or Denny Avdia or somebody that
like a direct pivot that benefits off his failure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Can I get do you know what your exposure is to him?
I don't know yet. I got 6 minutes.
Okay.
But, it's probably going to be like 75% or so. So
okay.
Pretty high.
Great. Okay. We got a few more questions here. A few people mentioning Grimes. I guess Grimes is not starting. I'm not sure if we had him projected in. Do we still like him not starting?
I didn't have a ton of him. I don't think I was expecting him to start.
Oh, okay.
I think everybody's going to hop on DiVincenzo, even though the salary disparities there. DiVincenzo's probably coming up just a touch.
Okay. And then last one, Squirrel, before we just open it up and just I get your take. Can I get your thoughts on Livers and Kispert?
I don't love either of them. Livers is probably the guy that could really hurt my Patrick Baldwin call, because like we have no idea how much. Like, Livers might not play at all because this is his first game with the team. But he could play. So yeah, well, we kind of just have to see.
Fair enough. Anything you want to add here? We've got about 4 minutes until lock about what is different about your builds on DK than FanDuel. Oh,
yeah, I'll just say, like, because the guys get much cheaper on DraftKings. So there's another guy like Jarris Walker with Indiana, is a guy that said their first round pick. I think he was like pick number 8 overall.
Out of U of H, right?
What was that?
Out of U of H, right?
Could be, yeah. So he's a guy to keep in mind. He's like, both Jarris Walker and Gigi Jackson are like really cheap on DraftKings, whereas FanDuel priced them up. Kind of proactively priced them up after they had a couple of good games. So they're not really FanDuel relevant, but they are like probably very DraftKings relevant.
Very good. Okay, with that, I'm going to open it up to questions from all. Make sure you hit us with a little thumbs up. I am going to start in the RG Discord. That's where you should be hanging out, by the way. Let's see what we got. FanDuel GPP. Squirrel, you want Shea and Monk or McConnell, parentheses, versus Brunson and Fox?
Yeah, it's the first one. I think probably for the reason outlined. But like SGA, I think is one of the top spend ups. I mean, he's like the highest projected player, and I think we have enough value to get him, and we might have more value coming. So I like the idea of like planning for SGA.
Nice. Okay. DK GPP and Chief, I'll give this one to you. Would you play Randall and Hartenstein in one lineup in multi-entry?
No.
Okay. FanDuel single entry. Scroll right back to you. Center spot, Jalen Smith or Jonte Porter?
Oh, Jalen Smith.
Okay. FanDuel single entry. Chief, this is a 3v3. Brunson, Keegan Murray, and Towns, or SGA, Bagley, and Hartenstein?
SGA, Bagley, Hartenstein.
Very good. D-Rock, DK GPP, Squirrel, Jalen Williams, or Miles Turner? Last piece.
I'd go Miles Turner.
Okay. Aside, FanDuel cash question, Chief, to you, 3v3. Buddy Hield, Trent, and Barrett, or Dante, Mathurin, and OG?
First one.
Okay. Let's see what else we got in the YouTube. Enger says self-described weathermen like Heineken. I want to point out this is a Heineken 0.0 here. We're still on the mostly dry January. Fairly dry. It's a damp January. Thoughts on Keegan Murray, Chief? This is your department. Over 24.5 points, rebounds, assists.
Don't hate it today against Indiana. Definitely a spot he could go over.
Okay, great. Let's see what else we got here. Is Naismith good to go from S. Wolf Dab? Squirrel?
I don't think we know for sure, but I think he's probably going to play. We don't know for sure.
Andrew says, if you're drinking a 0-0, you're an alcoholic. No. I'm eating peanuts, and like eating peanuts without beer is just not. It just doesn't work. So that's just the right choice, is what that is. Hoosier saying Banner says, hey, I really like Chet tonight. You got any Chet? I always like Chet.
I like him in real life, but I don't really pay him for DFS as much recently.
Okay. Let's see. Less than 2 minutes until lock. White or Levine, Chief?
Give me Levine.
Aside says, is McConnell a priority on FanDuel over Nemhart? Oh, I'm sorry. If Nemhart gets ruled out post-lock. Is McConnell a priority if Nemhart gets ruled out?
Yeah, I think he's probably... I'm playing a lot of Malik Monk with the thought that I might switch it to TJ McConnell.
Okay. We'll go to S. Balls question. DK Cash, Chief. How many spots in cash are you leaving for Pacers news, not including Sabonis?
I would leave 2.
2. Okay, good. Chet, Chief, right back to you here with the props. Chet over 2.5 assists.
Yes.
Ooh, I like it. DKGPP, less than a minute. Ron says Healed or V. Williams. Squirrel?
We got to see the Pacers starting lineup.
Yeah.
I would just say, like, it could be Buddy Hield. We got to see the starting lineup. We got to see who's out.
Okay. I'm sorry. Who's V. Williams?
Vince Williams.
Oh, okay.
But he plays for the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
But they're both starting at the same time, so you know.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And with that, we have hit the lock. Energy Squirrel, what would make you pivot to McConnell? What would make you pivot to McConnell, Squirrel?
So Andrew Nemhard is questionable. So if he's out and Halliburton's out, like we know how Halliburton's out, Nemhard is questionable. So then we would be going to TJ McConnell.
Very good. Okay. Hey, with that, I think we are going to bounce on out of here. So for Squirrel, for Chief, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes, guys, we appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.